Okay. So today we are solving interview questions of data structures and algorithm, the questions which are asked in interview. This is an English version of this question video. So if you want a Hindi version of this same video, the link will be in the description. If you want to read about the code in depth in English, Hindi, and English, the link will be in the description. You can go ahead and read about this code. And yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and solve this question. And let me first tell you what it is and what we have to do. So let's see the structure of a function first. What we have to return, what we are given to work with. So let's see. So we have to return an integer as an output. So there must be some single number which we have to return. The name of this function is max subarray. You can name anything if you want to. If you're writing in your own Visual Studio or any IDE, uh, and we are given a vector of type integer. The integer value is stored in that vector named nums. Okay, this is the information which we are getting from our function name and definition and all. So the question is maximum subarray. So what is subarrays? Let's say if this is a your vector, there is some value stored here 3, 5, 1, 2, minus 3. So the sub array would be small arrays of this. So let's say I make a small, I will go ahead and say 3 plus 5 and 5 plus 1, and let's say I make a sub array of this 3, 5, 1, then 5, 1, 2, then 1, 2, minus 3, and so on. So what this question is saying that go through all the elements of this array and find a subarray which is between these. Find some subarray which has highest maximum of total. So let's say what it is saying, essentially it is saying 5 plus 1 plus, it will give us what? So it will give us 6, 7, 8, 9. The value for this is 9. And if I store this 5, 1, and 2, so it will give us 6, 7, 8. So if I go ahead and say 1, 2, minus 3, so it will give us what? 3 minus 3, 0. Then let's say I store 2, minus 3, and 5, or 3 here. So 3 minus 3 is 0, and plus 2 is 2. So I have to return this number. So I have to give a number by which we are getting by adding the numbers in a subarray which we got from our main array. Okay. So if you are confused why I'm calling array and there is a vector written here, so array is immutable. So array is actually if you have an array. So if you have defined a size, let's say 10, you can't go beyond 10. It is locked. But in C++, we use vector. If if our vectors get full, it works as same as array. But in vector, if the value get full, it will just double it so that we never run out of space. So this is very minute difference between array and vector. They work exactly the same. So this is the question which we will work with. So what's the logic here? So I can say, let's say I have a array of 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, minus 5, let's say. And if I say I put a pointer here and I put a pointer here and there is a pointer here. So I have essentially divided this into three parts. So something here and from here to here in two parts. So from, let's say I call this as a midpoint, I call this as a right, and I call this as a left. Okay. So from left to midpoint, we will add and we will store some value, and from mid to right, we will add and we will store a value, right? And that value can be based on what comes. Like let's say for in our case, the value from left to -1 is 678, and from M to R is 0. So we can do this. So first thing which we got is we have to create a midpoint. So how we can create a midpoint? So midpoint is nothing but int mid is L R minus L, because from left I will minus right, and then I will divide it by 2. So it will give us this midpoint. So this is, you can say, formula or a way to get our midpoint. So this is our L point, and this is our right point. I will minus right minus left, which will give us this, and I will divide it by 2, so it will give us mid. So we got our midpoint. So as you can see, after we got a midpoint, we have to store the maximum of right and we have to store the maximum of left. So we can say or mr for max right, or we can say ml for max left, which will store the maximum value of left, and this will store the maximum value of right. Okay, so we will store this, and we have to do some calculation because we have to add. So we have to make a integer of name sum, because we have to store the sum. Like this 8 will be stored here, right? So we have to have some variable named sum, and this will store the maximum of left. I am taking this as an example, but this can be a bigger vector. So it can go through all the left values to store the maximum of left values, and this can go all the way from right to store the maximum of right value, and this is the sum. Okay, so we got these information from here. Now one more thing which you can see is we are looping from left to m minus 1. So if we are looping from left to n minus 1, then we will can say there is a for loop which goes from L to m minus 1, and you can also see that there is a loop which go from m plus 1 to r, right? Or if in case you want to go from right to left, so there can be a loop from right to m minus m plus 1, but in that case we have to decrease the value from here of an index. So we got these information. So let me check. So we have to make this, we have to initialize this to store the maximum values. We also saw we have to make a midpoint. Three things we got from here, and we also got that we have to loop. So there are four information which we got. Okay, let's work with this. And okay, so I will do something which can be kind of odd for someone who is coding, uh, who is very new to coding. But yeah, if you have something, if you have a question, like sub-array questions, or if you have a problem in general which seems big, you can divide that problem into smaller problems. So I what I can do is I can say that this is my problem. I will divide this problem into some sub problem. I will solve this function. Like I will solve that sub problem with a function which we have created, and I will send the value which I got from this function to this bigger problem, uh, which it can use. So the plus point of this method is in bigger codes, in company codes, if you do this, if something crashes, let's say there is a code for making an Instagram, and there is a post function, there is some function which uh, shows your friend list, and there is some function which is used for sharing things. Let's say if we have divided these into different functions and this function crashes, you have still these working features on the on your Instagram profile, but all you have to do is to fix you have to fix this function, right? So it will not be end of the world from there. But if you have written all of these problem solution into a same function, and for some reason this function crashes, then you have no running features, because all the functions of this features were written in a same code, like in a same function, right? So this is a good practice to have, to divide your problems into sub problems. So what I will do here, I will create one function, and my function will take what it will take. It will take same vector, because we have to work with that vector. And in my function I will take L. I can initialize L because I'm writing that function. So I can initialize N. I can initialize R in that function, because we need to find M, and then we will have to work with that. So I can say, uh, and our function, what our function will return, our function will return int. I will straight away from here, I will do all the calculation. I will say, okay, I got the maximum value, and I will send the maximum value of what we got into the main function. So if, let's say, uh, if I'm making a function, right? So I can say, I can name it different, but I will name that function the same, because I will, okay, these are access modifier. So what are access modifier? If you have not delved into object oriented programming, the access modifier is basically the leverage or the access which a coder or a user get. So this is available to all. This public access modifiers tells that this particular code is available to every function or every part of the code. But if you write private, that means this code which is written after private is available for that particular function or code, right? So I will make my function private, and I will return a value. So I will return int. I will name my function as same, but my function will take vector of int n, because I have to work with it. My function will also have int l. My function will also have int r. So let's make this function. It would be a private, because I don't want it to get access by everywhere. I don't want it to have access from everywhere, right? So let's do this. So I will come here. After this function, I will make my own function. I will say private. Okay. Okay, this is the function. I will say private. Private. That's what. Right. I will say 1, 2, 3, 4. So keep in mind the indentation is, like, indentation should be to the point, or you will get an error. I will name it as same what our main function is. So I will say int max sub array. I will take vector of type integer, uh, same nums which we have. So it will have nums. I'm saying I want something L, some variable R. Okay. So how, uh, the first condition is that my left side should not be greater than my right side, because my left pointer is, if my left pointer is greater than right pointer, that means that condition is false, because there is no right if there is no left, right? So right to what, like left to right? If right is smaller than left, that doesn't mean anything, right? So if my L is greater than R, then what you have to do is return int. So int min will return a maximum value. I know it sounds very counterintuitive, but what I find fascinating, there is a whole explanation behind this using stacks and all, how int min will get you maximum value and how int max will get you minimum value. It has an explanation which in which you use stack, but in very layman term, I can say whenever int min is called, the maximum value we get a maximum value, and then when int max is called, we get a minimum value. So it will get a, so there is an explanation. It's not a hocus pocus or a um, just something which you fly by. There is an explanation for this using stacks. So I will say int mid is equals to, we have set our middle is L plus R minus L by 2. So this will give us mid. And I said, okay, we will take a maximum of L, which is max L. We have to store the maximum value which we are getting from L, and we will say we have to store the maximum of a right, so we will say this. Okay, so to get max L and max R, I can say int L max. So it will store the value which we are getting from here and by iterating. So let's go ahead and say max. It will give us maximum between L max and ML, basically ML. So it will give us max from nums L and M minus 1. It will give us the value of it will take nums, which is our vector, the value at L, which is our first value from left, and it will go from M minus 1, it will go till M minus 1, and it will give us maximum at left. Then we can go ahead and say int R max. So what this will give us, it will give us max. So SubArray, I'm not using um, so as you can see, I'm calling this function max SubArray here from nums. It will take nums and it will go from L from our left to M minus 1, which is our till our midpoint, the element before our midpoint. It will go till there, and for right it will go max sub array, and it will keep on calling the function. This is known as function call because see, I'm calling this function which I created here on nums, and it will go start from L and it will go from M minus 1. And if you can see, I'm taking nums as a vector. I'm starting for L, and the right of that vector is given. So our left sub array is right position. Okay, let me explain this by drawing. So we divided this into two parts. So from left to here, it is M minus 1, and this is L. So this is our left part, and this is our right most element for our left subarray. And from here to here, the M um plus 1, this will be our left for this, which is this, and it will go to M. I think the size of an array is n, so I have to go through n or right the till right. So it is not n, it is, I have said that position is r. So it will go from m plus 1 to r. So there's that. So this is what it is happening here. So I have actually broken down this whole thing into two parts, from here to here and from here to here. Okay, so let's do this. And let's see. It will start from m plus 1 and it will go till r. It will go till r. Okay, so after doing that, all we have to do is to run a loop for these two things. So I will say for I, which is starting from L for the left subpart. Um, what we can say is, hmm, or we can just run a loop from. So we can do two things. So we can run a loop from here to here, or we can run a loop from here to here. So for the left part, if we run a loop from here to here, it will go from n minus 1 to L. Okay, and I have sum, and I will keep on calculating, which is initially, and I will keep on storing this sum. Okay, and from m minus 1 to L, so what it will do, it will deduct that I minus minus, it will do I minus minus. So if we go from int I is at m minus 1, and it will go till I is greater than or equal to 0, uh, or in our case L, because this is the last position, and I will say I minus minus. So I will run a loop from here to here for the left part, and I can run loop for a right part from m plus 1 to R, and in that case I will say I plus plus. So I can do that. So let's do that. So so I can say our I starts from um, m minus 1. I can here only declare the sum which we have, where we have, okay, we are declaring here only. So sum uh, at 0, sum would be a 0, and for every loop it will sum. So I will be less than or equal to, L, greater than or equal to L, because I'm going here, I will be greater than or equal to n L, and I will be minus minus. So it will create a loop which will go from here to here, and it will keep on adding to the sum which we have said. So this is a shorthand. I can also do like int sum is equals to 0 outward, but for every loop I have to specify that. So I have specified that sum into the loop only. So I will say for every loop add sum and equal to what, num I, because I will say, okay, go through num I element and sum it, and then get the max of left side. So L is equals to max, and in our case we will take sum and ml. So this will have a this will give us max for a left side. So for right, I'm saying int I will start from m plus 1 from our middle part, and I will same go ahead and specify the sum, which is initially a 0. Then I will say I will go till right, and I in this case will plus. From it will go from, let's say, fifth index to sixth index, sixth index to seventh index. And in this case also I will say sum plus equals uh, the nums I, and it give me max, right? So max max between sum and mr. So this will give us max of right side. Now all I have to do is like get out of this loop, and I will say return max the maximum between max of ml mmr. So this will give a maximum value, like the maximum value which we got from ml and mr subarray. It will compare those two and give the maximum value which we have. Okay, then I will say max of this and this, and in second place I will say give me the max L. If we combine all this, does that value is maximum, or if value which we got from comparing MLMR is uh, maximum. So here what it is happening, it will compare MLMR, it will give us some value here, and what I'm saying, if we add ML plus MR plus the middle element and the element the value is greatest, so it will compare between these two and give us the maximum value. So there is one here, then we have our for max, and then we have closed it. Okay, I'm just checking for this uh, no extra parentheses. So this, we have closed this. Okay, let me see. I think I have to close it. Okay, let's run and let's see. If we get an error, that means we have an extra parentheses, but I don't think we should get an error. So max between these two. So I think I have to put parentheses here, and max between ml and mr. So it will give a max, and this will okay. So all you have to do is just run a code here. I will say return. I am just passing the value here. Return max subarray sub array which we have initialized. This is same this. I'm calling this function, and I will pass my initial values, which is nums and our L and our num size minus 1. So this will pass num size minus 1. So as you can see, I'm calling this function which has nums 0, L R. At L position we are starting from 0, and R position is the last position. So num dot size minus 1. So I'm calling this function. This function will get called here, and it will run all of this and return a value. Let's see. Let's say I just have a doubt in parentheses, but let's see. Okay, so m. Okay. That's the problem. I have initialized m not as m but as mid. So this is m. Let's run again. So what is undeclared sum? Int. Okay, sum is L I is greater than L. So okay, so undeclared sum. So we have not declared sum, so we have to declare that sum somewhere, right? So I think it will not take that long. So our L is good. I don't know why we are getting the value of L wrong. Sum is 0, but we have not declared sum anywhere instead of just here. But that's not okay. That's not the case. I can do this is the issue, and same goes with this, because I'm just ending, I'm like terminating int part at that position only. That's why it is I'm getting an error. Okay, max. That's that's the parentheses problem. So I have these two parentheses. Okay, so I have max. I don't know why I have put max here. So max, return max. So max max l r, and then just remove this. So this will compare this. Let's run again. Okay, now as you can see, it is working. So what it is essentially doing, it is going from here to here, from mid till mid, and it is getting ml. From here to here, it is getting mr, and it is comparing ml and mr, and it is also checking if that ml plus mr plus our mid element, if we sum them and it is greater than ml or mr, give me return that max element. So this is our loop, and that's how. And the error which was occurring because I have put this, like the semicolon terminates the instruction there. Now if I run it, it will give an error because this sum is not initialized because int has been terminated here, right? But if I put a comma, that means int I is this, and sum is also int, which is 0. So this was an error which we have sorted out. As you can see, it's running now. So again, if you want to watch the Hindi version of this video, the link will be in the description. If you want to read about this code in English, Hindi or English, the link would be in the description. I will see you in a bit. Bye bye.